Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Adminchat, hosted by Marcham Publishing Executive Secretary Magazine. And our topic today is building the strongest network ever. My name is Kemetia Foley, CAPOM, and I am certainly thrilled to be here today to talk about a passionate topic of mine, something that I preach about, coach about, encourage others to do, work on. I consistently work on this very topic, and that is building the strongest resource network ever. Build the strongest network you can for your career and for your personal life. Today we're going to focus more on how it affects the administrative field, and we're going to talk about how building this network is so vital for administrative professionals. We're talking about all the topic areas that bandwidth, that large swath of business knowledge that administrative professionals have to have in our reserve bank or our go-to in order to function at the highest levels of business. And if you're just working out of your own purview, out of your own knowledge, you may be losing out on efficiencies, new technologies, new approaches to problem solving. And in the world of the administrative professional, we're talking about all these areas that we cover on a daily, not every single one of them on a daily basis, but almost on a daily basis. So think about travel, IT, project management, meeting planning, business writing, social media, artificial intelligence, human resource issues, finance, customer service, research, and so many more. And we cannot afford to not have a good bank to tap into when we need it. So one of the challenges we run up against with administrative professionals in our peer group is that we have a tendency, and that includes me as well, I have done this, where you have a certain core group of peers within your organization or even within your field, in your city, that you rely on for assistance. And then you don't really need a vast resource network to do your job well. And I say to you, don't buy into the bull. And I've learned this on many occasions where I thought I had something covered, and I've gone back to tap into those folks that I know that work way outside my field, that work at a different kind of organization, at a different level, and been able to tap into their expertise, their resources, because each one has our own resource pool. So it's exponential as you expand your network. And it's so really important to do so. And if you're not sure, think about when you have been able to pull something off, that you have reached out for a friend, even if it was something personal, like pulling off a kid's birthday party, and I have no idea what to do about this. You reach out to another mom, or whatever, and they have this great resource for an entertainment act that's not expensive. You've saved yourself some money, you've saved yourself some time, and that person has helped you in more ways than you can imagine. Same goes for building a resource network in the business field. If you do not know a kosher caterer in another city, if you do not know, so forth and so on. So don't buy into the hype that you don't need a big resource network to be successful. Networks can be established in any career field, and they should be. And what we're talking about here is a simple understanding of what is that network. What is it in terms of what do you expect out of a network, a business resource network, and what do you hope to get from it, and what do you hope to give back to it? So whether it is communication of all forms, whether it is having access or contacts in all the areas that we rely upon as assistants, or just trying to get some kind of situational awareness as to where the career field is going. If you're not in the administrative career field, it shouldn't matter. You still need to have those resources in place. But first, you have to evaluate how you are doing. And in the March 2019 issue of Executive Secretary Magazine, a lot of this is going to be covered. The article that I wrote about was building the greatest network, best resource network ever. And it goes into far more detail than we're going to have time for today in our admin chat. But the first thing you need to do is to evaluate exactly where you are in terms of your resources. And the best way to do that is to simply cut down a list of things that you do on a regular basis and who your go-to people are for that item. And do you have more than one person to help you? So the 8 questions that I covered in the article talk about some very far out instances that you would need to consider to make sure that your network is as vast as you hoped it would be. If you've ever had the opportunity to hear Ann Hyatt talk, I had the privilege of listening to Ann Hyatt talk several years ago about her experience working for Eric Schmidt at Google, and she talked about the day that she had to all of a sudden get him a helicopter. And it jolted me awake to think, would I know how to get a helicopter if somebody asked me to? I need a helicopter right now. Well, what would I do? How would I do that? Do I have a resource in my, what we used to call in the old school way, my Rolodex of ideas and transportation and things that I could go to? And it's not as simple as going to Google or to Yelp and looking for research, helicopter, leasing or helicopter rides. You want to be able to tap into somebody in your peer group that has already done that legwork for you. It has a fine, solid referral to a helicopter company that they have used, or even, and if they don't, do they have in their resource network somebody who has had to lease a helicopter in less than 48 hours notice, or whatever the situation, circumstances may be. So you need to think about how are you doing when you think about your resource base for you as an administrative professional. Some of the areas that I talk about, but let's think about it. If my computer died right this moment, which I hope it doesn't because I'm recording, if I were to come to you and say, my computer died right this moment, and I am nowhere, I'm recording this, and there's nobody around, nothing's open, what would I do? What would be my first, is there somebody that I have in my contact list that I could reach out to and say, I just got the blue screen of death. Do I have a backup laptop? Do I have my stuff saved to the cloud? Do I have a resource that I could reach out and contact? Not just for me. What if it happens to our supervisors, right? So if you're in a big organization, hopefully you have that kind of deep pocket resource that you have IT on call, but not everybody has that privilege. And the way you prove your value as an administrative professional is to be able to have that resource to go to and say, I know this guy, Sebastian, he runs his own IT company. I met him through an executive secretary conference, and I have his card, and I will call him right now. Pardon me, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. So when you get to that point, you have now you have the momentum to say that I know I have a resource to help troubleshoot this. But let's say you don't. Let's say you are sitting at home and now you're thinking to yourself, now what am I going to do? What would be the next logical step for you in that networking process? Do you belong to any Facebook administrative professional group or LinkedIn groups? Can you reach out to somebody that you've met at a previous conference that you've connected with and ask them, hey, do you have an IT person? This is why the more options and choices and avenues that you have to pursue this becomes so incredibly, you build your own value, you save time, and you may save the day, right? So that's one place to think about, how are you doing? What about if, for example, your boss is traveling and becomes ill overseas? What process do you have in place to deal with that? What protocol does your company have for dealing with somebody who becomes ill overseas? What if there's no one traveling with your supervisor to help them? What if you receive an emergency call from the hotel? Oh wait, did you provide the hotel on the reservation with an emergency contact back for this traveler? So most times when you're making an airline reservation will provide you an emergency contact option when that reservation is made. But what about the hotel? What about the conference that they're attending? What about the meeting, the business meeting? What about your contact? Say they're going to a headquarters of an organization in Norway. Do you have a peer contact at that company if they fall ill, seriously ill, at that company event? Do you have a peer contact at that meeting that you can reach out and say, that they can reach out to you and say on WhatsApp, your boss has fallen ill, and then you can start that dialogue to assist them. Or, obviously they're going to do the right things medically on the other side of the pond, but you need to be able to know what your boss expects you to do. Do they expect you to contact their spouse for them? Do they expect you to contact other family members? Is there a chain of command within your organization that you need to notify that this has happened? This may be what you think is overkill, but it's so unusual for people to think that far ahead, that when you have that opportunity to provide that kind of service for your principal, your supervisor, your organization, it is really seen as strategic thinking, and you're seeing yourself as an opportunity to bring, not only hopefully bring home that person, in one piece and happy and healthy, but also to make sure that everybody is communicated with clearly. The great Rosemarie Terenzio, she talks about her experience with that when she was supporting John F. Kennedy Jr. I've also heard presentations where for large companies that have powerful CEOs, the organization has processes in place for security and transport for not only ill CEOs or executives, but supposing that unfortunately one passes away while overseas. So those kinds of things seem really far out, but to have it in your knowledge bank is just invaluable, because as admins, we just never know when we're going to need to do that. Something else I thought of about how are you doing. When's the last time you or your organization spent money to send you for more training to help you maintain a current resource database for yourself and network and build peer network. When is the last time that happened? Hopefully, it's happened within the last year. If it hasn't, I encourage you to contact other EAs, other PAs to see how they sold their companies on providing this opportunity for them. But you really need, at least one conference, one training a year, and then you need to be able to show them what it is that the value is for them. Here's one that I just heard a little bit about some more this week, in this past week and a half, about how do you learn about new apps? How do you learn? So where do you stand on using your phone? And can you use more than one operating system? So the challenge I had recently was that I am not familiar with Apple operating systems. iOS, I believe it's called. iOS. So I really came up against that challenge, and I didn't realize the impact it would have on my ability to get my work done. So that's something that now I have on my list of things that I need to go to people outside my own family, because if you can have your family show you new apps or new gadgets and new tools, but it's best to have a peer who works in the administrative field show you how to use these or locate these great apps so that it is relevant to your work. And you don't have to deal with somebody telling you that, you're too slow, Mom, or you're, I don't understand why this is taking you so long to get this, or maybe it doesn't even take you very long to get it. Maybe you pick it up very fast. But then they're like, remember I had to show you how to do that? And, who wants that, right? So, it's something as we keep learning and keep growing, we have to improve. And I'll tell you that wasn't on my radar because it wasn't on my radar. And now it is. So there you have it. So how are you doing in terms of things that are outside your job scope that you think, and you can go back to these areas and think about, what can I do that would be like the craziest what if scenario I could come across? What would be that something? Maybe you're manufacturing and you need to understand, disaster planning, or maybe you're so who do you know that works in your peer industry? Who works in your peer industry? They can have that conversation with you about what their organization does without giving away any trade secrets or crossing any proprietary information lines, but can say to you, look, this is what we have on hand. This is something you may want to consider. Then you can start drawing it up for yourself, for your organization. So that's, just get a sense of where you actually are. I think it's tough for administrative professionals because we focus so hard on our software skills, our ability to churn out Excel charts, reports, travel expense reports, travel, whatever. And then there are other things going on outside of our industry that we may not think we need to tap into and be aware of. So get a good sense of exactly how you are doing in terms of your resource network. Now, I'd like to think I have a great resource network, but even in that circumstance, when you are at the moment where you have to know how to do something right away, you need to have them on the ready to do something or to help you with. So you want to have them already built into your structure for outreach, and not have to create it from scratch. So here are 8 ways that you can build that network. 8 ways that you can build that network. So join an affiliated peer group or trade association. So there are so many administrative professional organizations now that when I was coming up in the field, was not aware of globally. It's not just, 1 or 2 here or there. Most countries have their own affiliated peer group, which you can locate by going to Executive Secretary Magazine, executivesecretary.com, and then I believe the tab is, let me think for a second. The tab is under there on their homepage where you can locate affiliates, I believe it's called, affiliates. And you can locate a full list of all the current administrative professional groups that are operating that Lucy and her team are aware of. And the great thing is a lot of times their events are also on their calendar. So if you're traveling, you could connect with another peer group's event, and then again expand your peer-to-peer network. So whether it's the International Association of Administrative Professionals, in the United States there are 3 or 4 main administrative professional groups: IAAP, American Society of Administrative Professionals. There's I'm going to draw a blank now. I think it's Executive Assistant Personal Assistants, EAP, Association of Executive Administrative Professionals, AEAP. There's admin to admin, and then there are peer training organizations that are just have their own lists as well. So in the UK, of course, there's International Management Assistants. There's Executive Secretary Magazine, which can connect you through to all those peer groups. Canada, Mexico, every place. Pretty much, I looked at that list and I was just stunned. I was so excited to see. You get a great sense of, if I have to go to this country, or if I have to send somebody to another country that I am not familiar with, like Portugal, I could reach out to that organization and ask for assistance, or ask one of our peers for assistance through that group. So not only join it, but participate in it. Participate in the training that they offer. Participate in the social networking that they offer, so that you have an opportunity to make those connections, build those relationships, and have that resource at the ready when you need it. Especially in the Washington, D.C. metro area, which is where I live, really important to have those connections, especially for space reservation, hotels, like conference room space. So their International Association of Conference Centers is a great resource here in the United States that we use to look for conference centers for like small board meetings, things that you need space for, that you may not have room for at your company site. Number 2, create an admin peer group at your own company. So even if there are only 3 of you, that doesn't mean you can't create that peer group, because there's going to be information that you guys can sit down once a month, every other week, once a week, whichever you decide, and have that as a little chat group on your desktop, or as a WhatsApp on your phone, and just have that discussion and dialogue. Because a lot of times what happens, right, we don't get all the information always that we need. And our peers may have it because they're working with that principal on that project. So we tie into that and have that peer group discussion, like, what are you guys working on? What are you working on? Well, here's what I'm working on, and how can we help each other? And what's your strength? And what if you have to go on a vacation and you need somebody to help you with something that's big while you're out? So having those admin peer groups for training and backup are really easy to do. It doesn't mean that it has to be a big deal. Just create the group and say, look, I'm going to set up this thing. If you want to come for lunch, we do this once a week, once a month. Talk about what projects our principals are working on. Talk about the systems that are and are not working for you, like the expense reporting or the lease contracting for copiers, whatever. Parking, data watch, or security type keys, all of those things that, get involved. Whatever the topic is, just share knowledge. That's the point within your own company. 3, Toastmasters. Now, Toastmasters is one of my all-time favorite ways to build a network because you're not only dealing with people in the administrative profession, but you're dealing with people who are from all kinds of occupations and industries, and they are working at the same skill of communicating clearly and deliberately about a particular topic. So where that comes into benefit for you is it helps build your skill, and then it also helps you build a connection in other industries and other occupations. We expose those folks to administrative professional field and how we see it as a profession, and also to show that as a profession and a professional, we are working and striving to constantly improve. Toastmasters is a great way of doing that. Building that speaking skill set and building that resource network outside of your own company. Encourage you to look into it, even if it's just for 6 months, where you go and learn about how to do different kinds of verbal presentations and speeches. It is so invaluable. Attend a meeting professionals event or webinar. Don't know very many EAs or PAs that do not have to provide some sort of event planning. I'm trying to think the last time that I met an EA or a PA that does not do any, that has no responsibility for event planning, whether it's a company picnic, company meeting, committee call, board of directors meeting, conference, a section meeting, sending somebody to a meeting, sending a team to exhibit for your company at a meeting. I mean, those events are constant and prevalent within our field. I know the International Association of Administrative Professionals just recently added a specialty in event planning. It's not the same as the Certified Meeting Professional. It is geared towards a specialty area for, it's a certification for within, a certification specialty, let me clarify, within the IAAP certification program. So these things, I go to MeetingsNet. MeetingsNet is a great online publication for meetings professionals. They often have free webinars available to subscribers and non-subscribers, and I encourage you to take a look at that site. Just the wealth of information and resource there. You may connect with people in your city. Meeting Professionals International, MPI, also has some, not many, but some free resources available on their website. So see if there's a local event or a local webinar that you can participate in at free of charge, and build that knowledge set. Keep current with what is acceptable, what is protocol, what is the right way to approach hotels or conference centers for submitting a request for proposal, a request for quotes. These are all really important things that I think a majority of administrative professionals have to do some of, even if it's something personal, like planning your supervisor's family, or say that your supervisor wants to host a team event at their home, like summer, like celebratory thing. You're going to be involved in that, and you're going to need to have some resources at your ready to utilize. Next, create your admin emergency contact groups. And what I mean by that is in your contact lists, which I hope are thorough and detailed in your contact list, and then once a month I print out a hard copy, because sometimes things go wrong and we lose our data. Right? It's not backed up, or something gets corrupted. You want to have a hard copy somewhere, hopefully, but within that there are categories or sections that you can create for your emergency contact groups. So you can set them up based on the areas that you need them the most. So if you are somebody that does a lot of exhibit shipping for your company, exhibit conference material distribution for your company, you can set up that process to your list. So it says, these are the people who do this in my field that are my, or not even in your field, that I've made contact with as a result of going to a conference or attending a webinar, participating in a webinar. These are people that I could go to, and when you do that, so for example, there's a great guy that I've been following on social media for a long time, and I don't work with him on a daily basis. I don't really, like, quote unquote, know him well, but I have interacted enough with him on social media that I can use him as an emergency contact when I come up with something related to social. So when I created his contact information, I specifically asked him, would it be okay for me to WhatsApp you in a dire situation? Would you be okay with that? Could I just reach out to you if I get stuck in a real jam? And he said, oh, absolutely. He said, it might take me a bit to get back to you, though, so just know that. And then I could add several other people who are in that area. People that I know who are Microsoft Office specialists. Same situation. I have a contact list for just those people. Who's the expert in Excel? Who is the person I know that can crank out the most amazing style guide, based on setting up a table of contents and making a document just look stunning. If I don't have time, if I can do it, or if I need a refresher because I don't do it all the time, who is in that group? That admin emergency contact group. Same goes for catering. Transportation is a big one. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this. People go out onto LinkedIn groups, or on the Facebook page for Executive Secretary Magazine, and they're like, hey, I need a recommendation for car service in Berlin, or car service in Spokane, or car service in fill in the blank. And that's where you constantly see those questions. You can start building up a resource for yourself in your contact list that's like, here are the people that are absolute international gurus for transportation issues, car service, specifically car service. And then maybe you have one for private jets. And then maybe you have one for, if all of a sudden you need to, charter a bus for your whole team to go somewhere. These sorts of things. So create your admin urgency contact group, and it'll save you a lot of time. Social, social, social. I cannot tell you, and I talk about it a lot, so I won't beat it to death here. Social media has been by far the most influential, exponential, powerful way that I have changed my business network. I now have lists in my Twitter feed for certain things, people who are overseas, people who, I could go on, but you can't just, connect with somebody on social and then never speak with them again and then expect them to be a good resource for your network. If you work on social, if you're connected on social, you share a lot on social, you can see, you can build that kind of back and forth with someone long enough, similar to what I was just talking about in the previous bullet for emergency contacts. So social media, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, some people, Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat a lot for my social contacts. I use it mostly because that's the quickest way I could get my daughter to respond to me while she's at university. But in terms of Twitter polling and reaching out to people on Twitter that I know are either in Alaska or people who are specialists in customer service, great example. Shep Hyken, who is a superb customer service leader, who has written books on customer service, who I have followed on Twitter for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And Kate Nasser is another customer service guru that I like to follow on Twitter. And this past month in social media marketing world, Shep Hyken was actually presenting at that conference, and I got to go meet somebody that I had only met on Twitter in real life and make that connection and let him know your content is valuable, is tremendously helpful to me as an administrative professional, and I will be reaching back out to you. Several other folks in that category that I had only met on, through Twitter, that I actually had an opportunity to meet in person, thank them for their knowledge sharing, and then build that network even further, establish a stronger build so that I could go to them on social, and they're not in the administrative profession. Some of them are in production, like video production. Some of them are authors. Some of them are customer service. Some of them are social media trainers or consultants on their own. So the opportunity to build that network outside of the administrative group is phenomenal. Attend live conferences, attend conferences and live training. So the power, and if you happen to be at the March Executive Secretary Live conference this past, so I think by the time this airs, it'll be a few weeks. So London was a March, I think 28th, 29th, 30th, right in that ballpark, 29th and 30th. So if you were at that conference, you know what I'm talking about. The power of social media, people following the hashtag ExecSecLive, the people who were there broadcasting live or streaming some portion of the conference live, and then the actual attendees who connect there and build lifelong connections and friendships because it's a camaraderie when you're in something together. Diana Brandel, often the Socialista project, she talks about we're all in this together, and that is exactly true. In the administrative profession, we rely on each other. We have to have that network, and the only way you can build those relationships stronger and more comprehensive is to go to these conferences. Maybe you're going to the International Association of Administrative Professionals Summit in July at National Harbor. Again, break out of seeing and sitting with your friends that you know already and force yourself to get to know other attendees, connect with them, exchange information. Ask them if they'll be on your admin emergency contact group for their specialty, whatever. Maybe they are just an absolute, maybe they are, conference, teleconference, video person extraordinaire. Maybe they're fabulous at Adobe. Whichever, ask them, hey, I have this list that I keep for resourcing for emergency situations. Would you mind if I added you to it? That's a great opportunity to do so. Lastly, network at work. So network at your work. Don't be heads down. Don't talk to anybody. Just take an opportunity to learn about the strengths and deliverables of the other people that you work with. Network at work. Let them know what you know. Let them know what kind of conferences you attend, what kind of things that you're interested in. When I worked for the American Staffing Association, one of my things that I like to do was to check in with the legal team. Now, I had no reason to connect with the folks in legal. I was working in research department. Very rarely did our paths cross in terms of work and deliverables, but I found that their work was fascinating. I found articles that I would share with them. I would ask them questions about things that they were working on that impacted the staffing industry, and they were more than happy to share their insights. And again, build that network at work, because when it comes time to ask a question or learn or move on, you want to have that peer contact back at the organization you just came from. Very helpful to have. So I'm sure that this is going on pretty long, so let me get to the next part. So 8 ways that you want to build your network. Again, administrative professionals, only as good as your resource network, only as strong as your resource network. 8 ways to build it. Join your affiliated peer group. Create your own peer group at your company. Toastmasters. Attend a meeting professionals event or webinar. Create your admin emergency contact groups. Social, meaning social media. Build those relationships out on social media. Attend conferences and live training. And network at work. So those are the 8 ones that I recommend. More importantly here, keep it going. Don't be a taker and no giver. Don't be greedy. Don't be grabby like that. That doesn't work. The way you build that, what we call good karma, or, good favor, is to be a good citizen and keep that information network going both ways. So reciprocate. If somebody asks you, do you know somebody who can help me with this, or can you help me with this, then give them the resource. There's no reason not to. I mean, hoarding information is boring and really unnecessary. Don't hoard information. Share. Introduce people. When you're at a conference, if you're with a colleague, make the connection for them so that they can add to their resource network. You never know how valuable that may end up being. Be honest. When someone asks you for your time, or on a topic that you really do not have information on, just be upfront. Don't fudge it. Just say, no, I don't know anybody who works in furniture manufacturing. You can always suggest ways that they could try to find somebody or someone to make that connection with. Or you can encourage them to go on Twitter and say, I'm looking to make connections in the furniture manufacturing industry. That's up to them. But if you don't, just be honest and say, no, I don't have time to, work on this event with you or provide you with this information, or I don't know, I don't have one. Just be honest about it. And for the network people that you already have, reconnect frequently. Check in with your network. Even if you haven't talked to a colleague that retired 3 months ago, but they are by far the most superb grammarian you've ever met, or a fantastic editorial writer, or marketing editor. Keep in touch. Keep those connections strong. Doesn't mean you have to send a birthday cake. It means you can just reach out to them with a short note and say, hey, just checking in, let you know, this is what I'm up to. What have you been up to? What kind of projects you're working on? And just keep that relationship contact warm, as we like to say. Don't let that lead go cold. Keep it warm. And if it's somebody that's not a good resource, so for example, if you connect with somebody on social or at a conference, and they profess to be, or they say to you, by the way, I am like absolute amazing at training new admins to the field. Like if you onboard somebody at my company, I will tell you all about my onboarding and how I train them. And perhaps maybe they are not, they don't take the same approach that you do to onboarding. Then the option is to do one of two things. You can let that connection go cold, or you can just say, I don't have any need in our company right now for onboarding training, but I will, introduce you to this group of administrative professionals that I know, and they may have some need for that in their organization or within their local peer group. You have that choice. I mean, we're all adults, right? That's, woo. Okay, so last but not least, let's see what I've got here for you. Hey, that's me. So I took a respite from my blog, and that was one of the ways that I was using to build my resource network. People would comment on my blog, and then I would not have time to get back to them, or did not do a good job of getting back to them. So I took a break from my blog and started revamping it about 5 weeks ago. But you can still go on there, adminrenegade.com, or you can contact me on my Twitter handle, @OfficeRenegade, or via LinkedIn here. I will be at the following conferences this summer. July 13th, Executive Secretary Live in Wellington, New Zealand. July 16th in Sydney, Australia. And July 22nd at the IAAP Summit in National Harbor, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. I hope this has been a helpful admin chat for you guys today. Feel free to reach out and contact me with any of your comments or questions. Thanks so much.